We have risen from the ashes to school the masses. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Scholars of Wrestling Show. I'm your man behind the microphone, Scholar Jeff. Joining us this week, one of two undisputed scholars himself, the one and only Scholar Tarek. Scholar Tarek, how are you doing this evening, sir?
You might as well just call me the OG undisputed scholar, because that's very an honest title for me. I'm still feeling the effects of the WrestleMania hangover. It's very nice to know that WWE can actually still put on a pretty good WrestleMania, especially with what happened how we felt about at least night 2 last year. But I'm actually pretty excited to talk about WrestleMania, at least my thoughts on WrestleMania this year. I'm really excited for it.
Yeah, that was a very interesting action-packed weekend of wrestling. It seemed to be like there was something for everybody, but as far as we're concerned, there's only one thing that we need to kick things off with. It's easily the biggest breaking news story of the week. And we're going to talk about that and so much more in a little segment we like to call Backstage News.
Indeed, we shall go ahead and just peek behind that curtain as we always do, because we just love the spoilers in the segment we call Backstage News.
News. We got to work on that without Brian, man.
News.
This is the kind of zaniness you get when you do your own transitions. Anyway, like we were talking about before, and alluding to, you're screwing up your background.
There we go. It's fixed.
This is why you listen to the podcast, kids. But yes, cutting to the chase, the secret is out. Cody Rhodes is officially with WWE. I didn't want to believe it. I really didn't want to. I shouldn't believe it. But lo and behold, at WrestleMania, here we are.
Indeed, here we are. And as you said it on this show and in our off camera or off microphone podcast, since nice little throw as a little plug for our podcasts, makes me also think, are you saying you don't want people to look at our handsome faces on YouTube? I mean, I know we got to plug in our podcast, but goddamn, fool. It's like, yeah.
I am merely implying that some people prefer a audio format, like when they're in the car or when they're at the gym or on their phone or elsewhere where you can't watch a video.
But if you can watch the video, enjoy us on YouTube. Plug. Okay,
we are everywhere. Rhodes. Back to you. Yes.
Back to Cody Rhodes. As you said on this show, on, off camera, off microphone, your response to even just the rumors of Cody Rhodes showing up in WWE in general was, I'll believe it when I see it. Well, we've actually saw it. It actually was a pretty good return for Cody Rhodes. It's, as Brian and I discussed it, it was very much reminiscent of what happened with Drew McIntyre when he came back. He went off out of WWE, left on such a term where he was kind of looked at as a joke. I mean, as part of 3MB for Drew McIntyre and Stardust for Cody Rhodes, going into the independent scene and pretty much starting from scratch with your character, becoming pretty much a big name on the independent scene. So when you actually do make your way back into WWE, at least if that's what you're going for, then you have more stock in your name and where they can actually push you into becoming one of the stars of WWE, not just, oh, you're just there and WWE, the WWE name is the star. No, this one is now they're going towards the stars of WWE. And I may be just pulling an optimistic card from one of your decks, fool, but considering how much they are giving him with this. The fact that Vince McMahon and Bruce Pritchard went to Cody in person to make this deal. I'm hopeful, cautiously hopeful, that they might actually make him a household name in WWE, where he's talking about going after the WWE Championship, something that his father never had. I would like to see that, and it is possible if pushed right.
Yes, I agree with you. And again, everything was presented so well. It was really hard to not get excited about Cody Rhodes. But I have to admit, there's still a part of me that's just very, very worried. I am worried that something's going to go wrong, that he's not going to get what he was promised, that more of this stuff is just going to fall flat. I am even afraid that they're going to give Cody too good of a deal, and it's going to lure too many people away from AEW and detract from the kind of wrestling that I want. Then again,
I don't think it'll detract anyone from AEW. I think AEW has made too much of a name on itself, that there will be that dedicated fan base. And now we're in a time where sports entertainment and professional wrestling can be two different entities. And in my way, they can coexist beside each other. I mean, now it's becoming just, okay, the other one exists. They're not trying to change different days to have a Monday night or Wednesday night or whatever wars that they would just push to make a inevitable documentary in the future. They're being their own things, and it's working for both companies. I mean, shit, it is the WWE audience now are the WWE audience. They're the kids of the Ruthless Aggression era. So the fact that you have Cody Rhodes coming back and there are not any AEW chants, there's legit Cody Rhodes chants. It just shows, okay, each shows have their dedicated fan base. Each shows can coexist. They're not going to take anything away from one another. And in a way, I'm all for it. It's just, for now, the only thing that WWE shows me is that, yes, they could put on good wrestling shows, but can they put on good weekly television programs? They could put on good exclusive events.
I've got my own thoughts on that, which we'll get to in time.
Oh, the answer is no. WWE television is terrible. The storylines are shit, but when they put on their actual wrestling shows, like something like WrestleMania this past weekend, yeah, they can put on. They actually know what they're doing when it comes to putting on the wrestling shows. They just need to figure the hell out what to do with these storylines for their weekly television shows that can actually leave us, the independent wrestling community, just going, God, can't they just think of something to make this entertaining instead of just stupid bullshit?
And that's what concerns me first and foremost about this, where if they make things too appealing to Cody and give him everything they want, it could potentially be the stepping stone for people like Wardlow and MJF to possibly make the jump. And if they do, I'm convinced they're not going to be presented quite as well as in AEW at the moment. Could I be wrong? Absolutely.
I just think of it.
I'm just not convinced.
They're going to be their own. They're going to be like, they're going to be the characters that they made, just PG version. I mean, how the hell can we have? How the hell, like, I see only Cody Rhodes really doing this, because And honestly, Cody Rhodes in AEW was closer more towards the sports entertainment aspects. The difference is he can put on a great professional wrestling match. So his transition back into WWE actually works for him. He's now taking the WWE version of what he's established himself outside of WWE, in AEW and New Japan and all that. This is just now the WWE version of the character that he made outside. And it's just the question on, can they do it? It's possible.
And it's possible. I'm very skeptical after all the things that WWE has pulled. I really am.
Oh, I'm skeptical too. I'm being optimistic, but like I said, cautiously optimistic. Cody is the only person of the names that like you did with MJF and Wardlow. He's the only one that I can actually see transitioning that very well. It's just very hard to really. I mean, I can imagine MJF and Wardlow, like they can probably do it too, but it's going to be very weird to see them, or at least in MJF's case. I mean, Wardlow, really, they could just pretty much make him the new Batista. MJF I feel like he's just that kind of character where you can't really do a PG version of MJF. Like
you could
have to be the actual rated R superstar of WWE, not just a gimmick. He has to be the one that has to be like, okay, if you want me to be really controversial, you got to let me off the reins. And I just don't think they'll do that with him.
Then again, I think he's eloquent enough where I can see him being the kind of guy who can work within that kind of an environment, cut those fire promos, and just make a living off of that. And just having that really strong promo foundation of it seems like WWE is at this point in the game is just very much looking forward to, or for rather, interchangeable parts. They want actors who will fulfill the role that they ask of them, that will do what they're told and not question anything for their own vision. Cody Rhodes, I believe, is going to be, if anything, is going to be the exception that proves this rule. So much so to the point where if people like Wardlow, like the MJFs of the world, if they follow suit, if they see that, oh, Cody got everything he wanted and more, if he actually does, then all we're going to get is a much less interesting version of the MJFs and Wardlows of the wrestling world. Does that make sense?
For MJF's case, I can see what you're saying more. I feel like Wardlow can actually Wardlow would probably transition easier. I mean, shit, he's, like I said, he's pretty much how Batista was breaking off from Evolution.
That is fair.
Because he's starting to really establish his character now, or at least within the last couple of months. He's not just MJF's muscle. He's now working at that point where he's getting himself over hard with what's his Powerbomb Symphony. Okay. He can work a crowd too. You can actually see him pulling off the sports entertainment aspects where MJF can do the same. It's just going to be very weird to see him pretty much having to hold back with what he can say. It's possible. It's just going to be something to get used to.
Well, in the meantime, I'll tell you what, before we get too far ahead of ourselves, what did you think about Cody Rhodes' match that we got at WrestleMania? Because I'll tell you right now, I was very impressed. It was a really fun match, and I honestly thought it was the match of the night for both nights combined at WrestleMania. Spoilers.
I wouldn't go that far, but I do, and I did enjoy it. I mean, Cody Rhodes versus Seth Rollins, you know you're gonna get a good match between these guys. It wasn't match of the night for me, or match of the weekend for me. I guess we can call, in the case of WrestleMania, we just call it match of the weekend. We can call match of the night for particular for night one and night two in particular, but for you said it for in general, it's match of the weekend. But yeah, it was a good match. It was a good return match. Yeah, pretty much everything happened perfectly in a case of Cody Rhodes' return. But it was good. Not like breathtakingly awesome for like something like a WrestleMania. It was a good match.
Yeah, hopefully that bodes well for the future of Cody Rhodes and WWE in general, but there truly only time will tell. But
Mm-hmm.
that thankfully was not the first or that was not the first or only debut of the entire weekend, because before this show, not only did we get our Ring of Honor's Super Card of Honor, but at the very end of the show, we got the debut of Samoa Joe, who is officially All Elite. Wow, what an end to that show. And I am so glad Joe is there. This one I'm not concerned about in the slightest. This is where the future of Ring of Honor was painted in my mind. And this one I am very happy about. Uh, Fool, what did you think about the news of Samoa Joe going All Elite?
Okay, I guess the best way to put it is it was like Samoa Joe's return to Ring of Honor and debut of AEW combined as one. It was great. I I'm very happy to hear that now. He's in. He's not going to be an on-screen personnel like a backstage role, like a general manager, is like what they were doing with him in NXT. This is now his in-ring return, and he's probably going to be in the finals of the Owen Hart tournament, the Owen Hart Foundation tournament. Uh, I basically, there's nothing really more else to say other than just I'm very happy. It was just a matter of time before he went to AEW, to Ring of Honor, and it's just nice to see Ring of Honor really is being the NXT for AEW, which is something that we've discussed on this show when the news of Tony Khan buying Ring of Honor came out. It was just, it's nice to see what we discussed actually coming into light, coming true.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I'll be honest with you, when we were first talking about that, I didn't actually expect that to come to pass, but you're absolutely right. After I saw Super Card of Honor, it's very clear that Ring of Honor is going to be AEW's version of NXT. It's going to be their feeder system for the kind of wrestling that they want to produce, in the same way that NXT 2.0 is going to be for WWE. And, I'll toot my own horn here a little bit. At the year end awards last year, I said that 2022 is going to be the year of clashing styles of wrestling, where it's going to be sport, like you said, the sports entertainment style versus the traditional pro wrestling style. I just didn't think that this was going to be the form this I'm hesitant to call it a war, but I'm
It's
just
not a
going to go
war.
with a war for shorthand. I didn't expect it to take on quite this form, but you know what? I'm here for it. I'm digging it so far. I really am.
I'm not going to call it a war. It's just AEW finding ways to basically to grow, since it's still technically a young company. Uh, the one real I was trying so hard not to cut you off with it's like, oh yeah, it is the NXT of AEW, and my response is going to be, the only difference is when they actually move up to the main roster, they're not going to change their names. They're not going to completely ignore what they've done in Ring of Honor. It's going to be actually character growth compared to what they're doing in NXT.
It was very clear that NXT won the black and gold brand. They found out the hard way that they're going to be like, yeah, we can't out AEW. So yeah, let's just double down on what we know we want to do.
Hell, you can even say that with NXT 2.0. I mean, shit, they just
that's exactly what they're doing. They're doubling down on their style. Yeah.
We even said before we started recording, Raquel Gonzalez being changed to Raquel Rodriguez. Why? Is this erasing everything she's done in NXT? I don't know. I didn't watch SmackDown, so I don't know what her promo was, but another perfect example. It was very milk. Oh, great. I think the perfect example of that is Pete Dunne. It's just, it doesn't
his
matter
name
what
is Butch now.
Butch Cassidy. I don't know why I said that. it just popped in my mouth.
Hey, at least he's got a surname. I'm sure he'll take what he can get.
It's still just my argument. I'm like, if you're like, you're not going to become a star with Butch. Like, I don't know. It just doesn't like, I feel like if you don't have a full name, you're not really going to really achieve much. At least becoming a big household WWE name. Hell, I mean, like Sheamus is a multi-time world champion. He's pretty much, I think all he needs to do is win the Intercontinental Championship, and he's a Grand Slam champion. But he doesn't, like, he's done all these accolades, yet he still feels like mid-card. He's pretty much becoming into the position of Dolph Ziggler, where like he's the name, but it's not like, oh my God, he's going to just be one of the best in all of WWE history. They're not going to push it like that.
I wish I knew what that voice was.
I wish I knew what that voice was, but I'm just rolling with the punches, baby.
Well, all that stuff aside, going back to WWE for a moment, let's just take another quick look at WWE WrestleMania 38. Cody Rhodes aside, we were talking about this a little before we started recording. The consensus is that night one was by far the better night, all things considered.
If we had to choose which show was the better show, I would side with night one. I mean, I'm not taking anything away from night two, because that was a fun show as well. But I just felt like night one flowed better. It had better matches. I mean, shit, it didn't have Bobby Lashley and Omos. That match was terrible. That's not saying much. That match was terrible. And I have my own personal problems with that, because they did what I said was going to happen in the prediction show, just not at WrestleMania, which would actually make more sense happening, because now when you do it on Monday Night Raw, what the hell? Like, it doesn't make story sense. I mean, yeah, MVP turning on Bobby Lashley to team up with Omos, but the match already happened. We already have established Bobby Lashley is the better choice. He's the winner. So why the fungool would you want to? I'm saving my one. Why the fungool would you want to team up with a loser like Omos? I mean, I've said it actually would benefit Omos, but why do it after the match happened? Why not just have it be where you give Omos the win at WrestleMania? Give him the rub instead of just.
I'll tell you what, you're being too logical here, I think.
Already establishing that Omos is a loser. So let's team up with the loser to take on the winner. So now it's reached up. God, is it? I guess now we're just basically talking about our highs and lows of WrestleMania.
Pretty
That one's
much, yeah.
that one's my biggest low because now you pretty much took everything away that made Bobby Lashley cool. Now he's essentially back down to sister level, happy-go-lucky Bobby Lashley.
I wouldn't go quite that far to put him on sister level again.
They just gave him the almighty. They gave him the almighty name now. It's now just a name. It's nothing like how he was when he was a heel and actually with the Hurt Business being the almighty, actually really showing that he is almighty. Now he's just now a baby face that's just, if Roman ever leaves, he will be their new Roman.
Because Lord knows we need more main eventers, and because right now we're running on fumes with the people that we've got, including a return of Stone Cold Steve Austin in an actual match.
I enjoyed this.
It was okay.
I mean, for someone who hasn't wrestled in 19, who hasn't actually had a legit wrestling match in 19 years with a history of his neck and back, this was a fun Legends match. It's obviously not going to happen. Like, this is obviously a one and done deal. He's not going to basically pull a Goldberg or anything, but he basically tried to do what Sting is doing in AEW, basically going all out, no pun intended, for his last hoorah. And I actually really did enjoy it, and it wasn't a full on squash like what they were hinting at the very beginning, which completely squashing Kevin Owens would not have been a good thing. Going back to the whole CM Punk argument, is so if once Austin wins, is he coming back tomorrow? No. So what does that leave me for Kevin Owens? At least Kevin Owens actually had time to shine. It was him, what was it, like 15 minutes? It was a nice 15-minute.
Yeah, it was pretty solid amount of time.
It was a solid amount of time. It didn't overstay its welcome. Austin didn't. He probably would have gone a little. I kind of wish he went a little harder with the mud hole stomps, at least in the beginning. But that's just me nitpicking. I actually, for what he was capable of doing. I mean, he's not. Oh, there's my one. He's not. It's pretty much just he's still in ring rust. I'm sure he didn't practice for anything like this beforehand. So for a man who probably did not train to basically get back to any point where he can put on a great match, this is just a typical legends having fun moment. That's just, it's a gimmick match. As long as he's not pulling a Goldberg and just being thrown into the world title picture, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, this one, it landed quite nicely, I think. And I didn't really have any complaints about it at all. For a match that I had complaints about, that was saved for night 2. Specifically, I'm talking about Pat McAfee and Austin Theory, and more precisely, what we got immediately after that.
I mean, the McAfee Austin Theory was actually really good. I actually enjoyed that.
McAfee Vince McMahon should have never ever happened ever. Vince, I'm sorry, but you got to know your limits. A man your age has no business being in the ring. Just never do that again.
If anything, you could have just done a low blow and have Austin Theory do most of the work while he was just barking orders.
But he won the match, and via man getting hit by football, the Hans Moleman special. And then once he won the $10,000, he got scared by someone else's music. Stone Cold Steve Austin came out, and he took the very worst stunner in the history of stunners, and television history was made. Who doggy? This one was bad.
I guess I'm just basically looking at this as a glass half full because I'm just looking at this as a complete circle. Because we just look back at the last, like his very, very first Stone Cold Stunner and just how he was overselling it and just how bad it looked. It was a like nice complete pie for me. Just because I was basically pulling what Stone Cold did, and I was just basically laughing my ass off at how terrible it was. And just kept drinking more beer. I actually like what Pat McAfee said on his show. Just like, oh yeah, this whole thing with Vince coming in, apparently that like I had no idea that was happening. It's like, okay, this is what's happening now. Just go with it. Okay. It's like, huh. Of course, Vince, he's big
Calling an
douchey
audible on
it's stupid.
Ugh.
That part, that is the only real downside of them, of that whole segment. I'm like, I like the match between Austin Theory and McAfee. The unsanctioned match was just garbage. Like I said, it should have just been a beatdown, low blow beat down with Austin Theory and Austin just coming in and stunning everyone. I would have been much like, it was a 90% that segment, that whole thing for me. It would have been 100 if they didn't have that unsanctioned match.
So all of that being said, any other highlights from WrestleMania that really stand out to you as being
the mid-card titles weren't on the show.
Yeah, I think it's actually Buff Bagwell of all people. I think it was actually Buff Bagwell of all people on Twitter who said something like, yeah, Pat McAfee is on the WrestleMania card and is getting a WrestleMania payday, but Finn Balor is not. Let that sink in for a moment. Like,
or Ricochet.
And Ricochet too. I'm like, you're not wrong at all. Where was this Buff Bagwell 10 years ago? I mean, really?
Just, like, there's nothing really much more else to say. I mean, it's been clear that Vince McMahon doesn't think highly of the mid-card titles. And this obviously shows it's ridiculous. I hate it, especially when it comes to the Intercontinental Championship, because like my fandom of that championship and what it's supposed to represent, and Vince McMahon just basically lighting it with fire, taking a piss on it, taking a dump on it, and just basically just Vince McMahon strutting all over it.
No chance for your mid-card titles.
It's Finn Balor, not on the show. Finn Balor. Oh, Jesus Christ. And
I know. I'm right there with you too.
And I guess another low point is the tag team match between the New Day, Ridge Holland, and Sheamus, ending in only like not even 5 minutes. Hell, I think it was not even 2 minutes. How quickly that match went. It's like, we're going to dedicate this whole thing to Big E just to have his friends lose. Have a nice WrestleMania, you bastards. And that was another night. Because it was moved from night one. Like, you couldn't have taken that Vince McMahon unsanctioned match out to give time to that instead of, pulling off that nonsense. Let's see. Is there anything else? It sucks about Rick Boogs.
Oh yeah, that was disappointing. Like, here's a quick
you were going to get
your
prediction. Apparently, you were going to get your prediction right, and Nakamura and Boogs were meant to win that match.
Oh, that kills me. Not even just because I lost a point on that, but more like I really wanted to see it. I did.
Now it's just the question on what are they going to do now with Rick, since Nakamura, since Rick Boogs was the one that they were pushing of those two. They were just basically using Nakamura's name to help push Boogs. So what does this mean for Nakamura? Is he going to disappear?
Well,
was he on SmackDown tonight?
He was. He showed up in the last segment with Roman Reigns and he got beat down by the Usos. So Who knows? Is this going to be a carryover feud until they hook up Cody Rhodes with Roman Reigns to go for the titles? Hey, they could certainly do a whole lot worse.
I think Drew is next in line for the title. I mean, how did Cody show up for on Roman on SmackDown?
No, they did not. They
Did
basically just gave a little synopsis rather on during the course of SmackDown.
did Roman come out at all for SmackDown?
Yeah, he was in the final segment saying that,
Okay.
yeah, I unified the titles now. Oos, now it's you. Now you got to go to Raw and unify the tag titles. So maybe that's what they're going to do next, and they're actually going to follow through with it this time. I don't know.
I'm okay with them unifying the tag titles. I mean, shit, they don't have a tag team division to begin with.
I'm all for that.
But really, they did the whole Romans like come to SmackDown to see what happens next. And all it is just them saying, let's unify the tag titles. That's it. Oh my God.
He also said, acknowledge me. Can't forget that.
I hate the weekly television show that WWE does. It's so bad. Like, and it's not even like I'm not even like doing a reference of the Power Glove. It's so bad. No, this is terrible writing. I hate this is bullshit. Why would I want to watch? Like, I put on SmackDown just to watch Butch and Xavier Woods. I didn't care. Like at that point, I'm like, all right, well, I'm just gonna go out and just go out for a drive. So that's what I did. I just went out because I just couldn't find myself interested in just what they're telling storyline wise on SmackDown. WWE television is just boring. Not at all interested. And that's the beginning of the show. That was because I know because when I turned the TV on, they just finished that Charlotte Ronda Rousey segment, which I still don't know what happened. But
well, let's look on the bright side here. Lacey Evans is finally back. Lacey Evans. Yeah,
she's a new character, right? Since you said she looks like it reminded you of Sonya Blade.
No, she's just wearing like combat fatigues and like black lace, and it's awesome. Oh. So she may not be sassy and calling people nasties again, but at least not yet. But hey, I'll still take it.
For me, to give my overall thoughts on WrestleMania, I mean, one thing, match of the weekend for me was Bianca Belair and Becky Lynch.
That is also a worthy selection. Not my pick, but I certainly won't argue against it.
That one just shows that Bianca Belair deserves. Like she fought for different women's titles at the two consecutive WrestleManias, and she's proven that she is more than worthy to being in that spot. I'm very happy. I'm very proud of what they're doing with her. I'm super happy with that. Now that Bianca Belair is established, now it's time for Rhea Ripley. Wink, hint, hint.
One can only hope.
Even though I do like the tag team of her and Liv Morgan, even though they're kind of hinting at a breakup, probably that's going to happen during their women's tag team title match on Raw next week. But yeah, I'm kind of hoping for a Rhea Ripley push now. And now with the whole rumor of her being a new possible new member for the new Edge heel faction, which it's good to see them doing something different with Damian Priest other than just he's a multiple personality. Let me finish. I'm interested in seeing where they're going with that oh God, I'm blanking out his name. I'm terrible with names. Who's part of House of Black? Brody King. And it's like, oh, this is just House of Black on Wish, which got a good laugh out of me.
Great value House of Black.
I got a good laugh out of that, but I'm really intrigued to see what they're going to do with this new heel Edge faction. Overall, I actually thoroughly enjoyed WrestleMania. There were a lot of dumb shit, especially in night 2, from Bobby Lashley almost to Vince McMahon showing that he seriously needs to not be in a wrestling ring anymore. I'll give WrestleMania a very high 4 out of 5 full beard.
I can't say I'm going to be that generous. Yes, there were some very good high spots during the entire weekend. Absolutely. But with the way the rest of the show felt, I can't help but feel like it. I feel like its hits were more of dumb luck instead of just like some actual calculated thing. So, with that said, I'm going to go for a 3 out of 5 classic goatee score on the beardy scale. For this one, there's a lot to like, but then again, there's a whole lot of misses. And when you mash up the 2 nights together, it was just a decent show. That's the most I can say at the moment. Just a decent show and but still a far superior WrestleMania, I believe, than the last one we got.
It was a far better show than SummerSlam. SummerSlam.
Then again,
terrible.
That's not saying much.
You would expect more from their number 2 show or number 2 pay-per-view, Peacock exclusive event, whatever the name
and
is.
Indeed I did, but I didn't get what I wanted there either. So whoop-de-doo.
Oh, I got a lot more out of this. Like, I'm surprised. Like, I think it's just because I came into this show with very low expectations because of how terrible this build was for this show. But it really did surprise me how much I actually enjoyed this, especially night 1.
And with that is our review of WrestleMania 38. Now where's where we turn it over to you, our fellow fans and listeners. What did you think of WrestleMania 38? What did you think of Supercard of Honor? New debuts aplenty. What did you think? Wherever you are, all across the internet, drop us a line and let us know. All across, whether you're on any of our social networks or any podcasting sites, no matter where you are, you can check us out everywhere at all of our socials and all of our connections at our new website, anchor.fm/Scholars of Wrestling Show. That's anchor.fm/Scholars of Wrestling Show for all the latest links and uploads and everything we've got, including if you're a new podcast listener, you can listen to us on all sorts of podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, iTunes. I'm blanking
Spotify?
On podcasting. I get them on Spotify. It's been a long day. I'm a very sleepy boy. You know where they are. That's why I plugged anchor.fm/Scholars of Wrestling, because all of our podcast links are up there. The link for this YouTube show is also there, which also happens to contain all of our back episodes for more fun just like this. Socials aplenty. They're all there, except of course for our personal Twitter accounts, which if you're watching on YouTube, you can find in the comments below. But for all time's sake, Fool, where can I reach you?
You can reach me realizing that I actually didn't mention how much I actually really love Johnny Knoxville versus Sami Zayn.
Underrated.
The Avatar. I loved it. Especially the meme of them talking about the jackass hand as Mae Young and Mark Henry's son's WrestleMania debut.
Because of course they did.
I fell on the floor laughing after that. But yeah, that was another fun one. But you can find me talking more about that at the Avatar.
And you can catch me flubbing my lines because I'm a sleepy baby man at I'm Robbie Rage. Join us for all the fun. It's the community that we love. But you already knew that because you know who we are. We are the Scholars of Wrestling, and you have just been schooled. You're welcome. See you all next week for more fun adventures and, of course, wrestling. Bye-bye.